You should, I think, except for one person, have received your wines. And like I said, this is the first time we're using this method, so any feedback on how they're showing is actually much appreciated. But in any case, please meet Georg. He is the managing director of Wine Burgenland, and he's sitting in Burgenland. I think it's already 5:30 there, so if he doesn't spit, it's understandable. But in any case, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, and then we can let you speak, or you can type in the chat and we'll figure it out. So I'm going to mute myself and we'll get started.
Okay, good. So hello everybody. Good morning to Texas. It's now 7 hours time difference, so it's about 5:30 in the afternoon in Austria here. We have a sunny day outside. It's not that warm as it used to be because we have a period of 30 degrees Celsius plus in the last couple of weeks. And I think, as you were writing, it's the best way to start Mondays. For me, it's the best day to stop Mondays today. We're having a lot of wines in front of us. So as I said already by Constance, my name is Georg, so it's George. Just switch off my mobile. I'm running the marketing board from Wine Burgenland, and this seminar was thought to be let's say an overview about Burgenland, what's ongoing right now, maybe about new developments from DSC point of view, and maybe what's coming up, what's just in the pipeline, which you don't know yet. And then, of course, showing the diversity of the wines from Burgenland with 4 flights, so 1 white wine flight, 2 red wine flights, and 1 sweet wine flight, as we always have to have sweet wines in our portfolio. So, and as Constance said, if there's any question, please just raise your hand and we will enable you to speak, or just write it in the chat. We will manage that one. Good. So, just in a nutshell, Austria is a wine growing country since ages, and in the far east, the district of Burgenland is located. You can see it here on the map. I try to do it like this and maybe like this. It should work. We are divided from the north to the south in 5 different areas. The one is, it's working. The one is called Neusiedlersee. The next one is the Leiterberg. Then we've got a new one you maybe did not recognize so far. It's called Rosalia. It's here since a little bit more than 1 year. We have an established one since 2005, Mittelburgenland, and in the very south we have the Eisenberg appellation or DSC system. So let's go a little bit further into details. Austria, all in all, is about 45,000 hectares of vineyards planted. So Burgenland is roughly covering 1/3 out of it, so it's about 14,000 hectares. And what's different to the other regions of Austria, we are the red wine region in Austria compared to Lower Austria, regions like Wachau, Kamptal, Kremstal, you for sure know, or even Styria in the south. So we have about 8,000 hectares of red wine, which is mainly planted with Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt. Blaufränkisch is the majority grape variety in Burgenland, just closely followed by Zweigelt, and about 6,000 hectares of white wine planted from north to south. As you can see, the split of the wine growing areas, Neusiedlersee, so this one here, actually I have to cover this like, let's put it like this a little bit, is by far the biggest area we have in our vineyard area, followed by the Leiterberg, Mittelburgenland and Eisenberg. We will now run through a little bit about the differences in the soils, in the climate of these wine regions, to explain later on the differences in wine, because we do have one flight mentioning Blaufränkisch from north to south, where we're going to taste a Blaufränkisch from Neusiedlersee, Leiterberg, Mittelburgenland, and we just will nail it down. Where's the difference and how we can taste the difference in the wines. So let's start with the biggest region, called Neusiedlersee. In this picture, the dark green areas, like this one here, this is actually the areas where vineyards are planted. So all the light green colored ones, these are just normal landscape, but the dark green ones are the vineyards. And you can see the vineyards are here located just close to the lake of Neusiedl, which is this blue thing here. And the lake of Neusiedl is one of the most climate regulating factors in the region of Neusiedlersee, as well as in the region of Leiterberg, because it's just close here. You cannot see it right now. So in general, we talk about a Pannonian climate. The word Pannonian is coming from out of the history from the countries Czech, Slovakia, Hungary, eastern part of Austria, even sometimes Romania, Croatia, and Slovenia is considered to be a Pannonian climate. What does Pannonian climate mean? It's a very warm summertime, so easily going up to 35, 40 degrees of Celsius in summer. And in winter time, it's going down to minus 20, minus 25 degrees of Celsius in this area. But general, it's a warmer climate, and the rain rate is quite low. So in the Neusiedlersee region, we talk about, on average, 500 millimeters or 500 liters of rain per square meter in a period of 1 year, which is quite low. In the south of Burgenland, we will see later on in the Eisenberg region, we talk about 1,000, so double or even more of rain rate, which does have an influence on the wine style as well. Burgenland is quite well known for its varieties, for a big number of varieties planted in there. Just running through the most important ones, you can see it on the left hand here on the slide. We start, of course, with Grüner Veltliner. Grüner Veltliner is the most planted white wine grape variety in Austria, as well as in Burgenland. But in Burgenland, it's just closely followed by Welsch Riesling. So the difference between Grüner Veltliner and Welsch Riesling is about 50 hectares, not more. So we consider both of the varieties being on the same size, and therefore it's the importance of both varieties is the same. Actually, to be honest, Grüner Veltliner is mostly planted in the northern regions, so in Neusiedlersee and Leiterberg area, partially in Mittelburgenland and in Eisenberg, and Welsch Riesling is planted everywhere, from north to south. And with Welsch Riesling, you can get different styles of wine. So from a dry style, really nice drinking everyday's wine, up to the very, very sweet wines, for example, Trockenbeerenauslese. And we're going to have 2 sweet wines having Welsch Riesling, at least as a portion of it, in the sweet wine, because the big advantage of Welsch Riesling is the ability to keep the acidity. And acidity is always important on sweet wines, to have a balanced style of wine. Then another variety called Weißburgunder, which you might know under Pinot Blanc or Pinot Blanc. It's the same variety. But comparing the figures, Weißburgunder, Chardonnay, Bouvet, here we talk a lower single-digit number of percentages of vineyards compared to Grüner Veltliner and Welsch Riesling, where we are in the 2-digit number. So it's about 13-15% of vineyards planted with Welsch Riesling or Grüner Veltliner, and the rest is then with Weißburgunder, Chardonnay. Bouvet is an important variety you for sure will not see in the US marketplace, because we normally use it for a wine style we call Sturm. So actually Bouvet is harvested beginning of August already, and the people drink this. It's not a wine almost, but it's something in between a must and a wine. So during fermentation, this liquid, so to say, is consumed. And depending on the timing of the consumption, it's either very, very sweet because it's almost a must, or when the fermentation has been ongoing for a while, it's like a wine, let's say with 8% of alcohol or ABV, or 9% and a little lower residual sugar in the wine. Semling 88, as well known as Scheurebe, is the second most important variety after Welsh Riesling for sweet wine production, because Semling 88 is having the is holding on the acidity as well, even if you just harvest in October time frame. When botrytis is there, so you know the noble rot, then the acidity stays on a very high level. On the red wine side, the two most planted varieties are Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch. Zweigelt, an indigenous Austrian grape variety. It was a cross by Mr. Zweigelt, so it's the family name of the guy giving the name to the variety, and it's crossed between Blaufränkisch and St. Laurent back in 1922. So it's going to be 100 years in 2 years from now. Maybe we're going to have a big celebration on that. I don't know, but they're going to make for sure something there. And Zweigelt is known as the, we call it the more, some people say the more female style of wine. What does it mean? The tannins are not that hard or that rush like with Blaufränkisch. Acidity is on a lower level, and the fruitiness is much more advanced compared to Blaufränkisch. On the other side, we have Blaufränkisch, which is a indigenous Austrian grape variety dating back. The first mentioning was back in 1777, roughly, as a noble red grape variety in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And Blaufränkisch is still planted in Hungary. It's called Keck-Frankosch. It's planted in the southern part of Germany. There it's called Lemberger. It's planted in the northern part of Italy. It's called Limberger, and so on. So you can see the tradition of Blaufränkisch in the old monarchy times. And another indigenous grape variety on the red side planted in Austria is the St. Laurent. St. Laurent belongs to the Pinot Noir family. Although the color is much darker on St. Laurent, the acidity is lower compared to Pinot Noir. But there's a big advantage with St. Laurent, especially when it comes to climate change, as it's going to be warmer and warmer. St. Laurent has a natural capping on the sugar level it can gain over the time. So fermenting into wine, the natural maximum alcohol level you can get on the St. Laurent is about 13% plus minus, depending if you add sugar in the fermentation or not. But you will, at least to current knowledge, you will not see any St. Laurent having 14 or 14.5% ABV of alcohol in the bottle. So these are the main varieties grown in this area. In terms of quality wine, in Austria, there are permitted 40 different varieties for producing quality wine, and all of those 40 varieties are planted in the region of Neusiedlersee. So really huge and big distribution here. The soil type is mainly dominated by the, let's say, by the Neusiedlersee, so this lake we have here. In former times, there has been even the sea there, and you can see a lot of sand and gravel in this area. And sand and gravel always provides you a very good fruitiness to the wines. That's the reason why Zweigelt is so dominant there, because Zweigelt is a fruit-dominated wine. Beside that, we've got clay, we've got black earth. So both of these soil types are having a very good nutrition, and the wines are really versatile. They are growing and growing. So there is not too much of a, competition for the wines out in the field for getting the grapes ripe. So you can imagine that in this area we have a warm climate, we have a low rain rate, we have quite heavy soils. All things together, we talk about more fully bodied wines. We talk about maybe higher alcohol and a very good fruitiness. So this would be, in a general language, somehow the typical style of a wine from the Neusiedlersee. Coming to the next region, the Leiterberg region, you still can see the Lake of Neusiedl here. And this Lake of Neusiedl is quite heavily influencing the climate in there. What I forgot to mention on the picture before, the Lake of Neusiedl is a lake which is quite shallow. So the maximum depth on this lake is about 1.5 meters. So if you're tall enough, you can walk through if you want. But it's a huge surface, and this surface influences the temperature quite a lot. So in this area, the average temperature compared to other areas close by, the average temperature is higher by 1 or 1.5 degrees on a yearly basis, which again influences the ripeness level of the grapes in there. And in especially autumn time, the humidity of this lake is influencing the generation of botrytis, noble rot on the varieties. So this is the region for sweet wine production. Trockenbeerenauslese, Beerenauslese, Ausbruch, as it's called in Rust. It's all the same coming from there. So now talking to the Leiterberg region. The Leiterberg is officially we say it's a mountain chain. Unofficially we say it's a hill, because the maximum height of the Leiterberg is about 450 meters above the sea. So, but still, there's a lot of maybe the most important thing here is there's a lot of limestone in there. It's a shell limestone. It's a mica schist. We call it Leiterkalk. It's the German name for it. And this limestone, this structure of soil type gives a lot of minerality to the wines. And you will see, we will have Leiterberg later on in the tasting. So the climate is still Pannonian in this one, but if we go just up with the vineyards on the Leiterberg, 100 meter, 200 meter higher than the Seewinkel or the Neusiedler See area, the average temperature falls by 1 degree, 1.5 degrees. And during the evening times, we will have cold winds falling down the slopes on the Leiterberg, and this keeps the freshness and the acidity level quite high of a typical Leiterberg wine. Talking about varieties, again, it's Grüner Veltliner and Welsh Riesling, which are the most dominating varieties planted in this area. But the Burgundian varieties like Weißburgunder, which is Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, as well as Pinot Gris, Grauburgunder in German, are quite well situated there. And there's another one which I would like to mention. It's called Neuburger. It's part of this family as well, and this is an indigenous Austrian white wine grape variety. It's not planted that much anymore, just like a couple of wine growers are really focusing on the Neuburger. Typical flavor of a Neuburger, we talk about nuttiness, almonds, walnut, for example. This would be typical, but the most critical thing on Neuburger is the skin of the variety of the grape. The berry is really hard, as well as it's really fleshy inside, so it's quite hard to press these things. So I always say, if you take a berry of Neuburger and throw it against the wall, the berry is coming back undamaged and it does not leave anything on the wall over there. A lot of people they broke their presses with Neuburger, so it's really hard to work with, and that's the reason why a lot of people don't grow this variety anymore. Another variety which is quite famous, especially in the area of Rust, it's just the one above. It's Furmint. Furmint is a quite old Hungarian and Austrian variety. Especially they made the Trockenbeerenauslese, so the sweet wines with this variety, as well as Tokai is done out of Furmint. And again, this variety does have besides herbal aromas, normally a really good acidity structure. It's quite a refreshing wine. On the red side in the Leiterberg area, it's again Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt, where Blaufränkisch is even more dominating the plantings compared to Zweigelt. And again, as we have the Burgundian family here on the white side, we talk about Pinot Noir on the red side, which are doing really well in this area due to the minerality in the soils. We have a lot of limestone, so a little comparison to Burgundy you can make, although it's not the same like Burgundy, but this is, let's say, the most Burgundian impression or interpretation of wines coming from the Leiterberg region. And in fact, if you have the chance to taste and to drink older Leiterberg wines, dating back like vintage 99, 95, 2000, something like that, sometimes you get reminded to a really good Burgundian wine from village quality or even Premier Cru quality level. Beside the mica schist and the cell limestone on the soil side, the more you go down the way to the Lake of Neusiedl, you will see more of this clay, black earth, sand, and gravel soils. Yeah? And especially on the sand and gravel soils, we do plantings of Gelber Muscatella, Muscat Ottanel, Müller-Thurgau, all of these tasty varieties. Even Sauvignon Blanc is on the sides, really to underline and to put the fruitiness of the wines up front. So in the Leiterberg region, you can say the wines coming closer to the lake, they are more fruit-oriented, fruit-forward, and the wines coming from the Leiterberg area, they are more minerality-driven wines. So the next region, it's a quite young region. It's called Rosalia. It's around the small city of Mattersburg. The climate is still Pannonian. The varieties are, let's say, almost the same like in the Leiterberg region. Actually, the Leiterberg region is here, yeah. So it's just close by. The big difference here on the Rosalia region is from the climate point of view. From the climate point of view, is that from the western side we get much more cool air from the Alps region as well as from the southern mountain chains coming there. So the difference here is it's about minerality, yes, but it's again a little bit more on the fruity side. So I just see a question from Charlie. It looks like the vineyards area has a really nice southeastern exposure. Yes, that's true. So just if I just switch back to this one, north is up here. So you see that this side is really looking to southeast, but we do have as well southwest oriented slopes. And the latest developments which you can see in this area is that the new vineyards which are going to be planted, more southeast directed than southwest directed. The simple reason for this is that southwestern sides, they have the afternoon sun, which is much stronger than the morning sun. And as we have a warmer climate and the grapes are going to be healthier and going to be more sugar content in there, we're looking for sites they are cooler in a sense, yeah. And the southeastern oriented sites are cooler. I will show you something in the Middle Burgenland area, which is really funny, but we will come to this one as well. But it's really nice to sit in the vineyards, and hopefully we have the chance soon again that you will come over to Austria and have a visit here to sit in the vineyard of Himmelreich, for example, which is part of the Leiterberg. It's a single vineyard, and just enjoy the rising sun in the morning and the sun going down in the evening. Yeah, it's really, really nice. So but now going back to the Rosalia, as said, from the western side, there is a cool air influence, which gives a little bit more fruitiness on these wines. As well as the acidity structure is there. The specific thing on Rosalia, and I didn't talk about DAC so far, this Districtus Austria Controllatus, which you see on the Austrian wines. The DAC in Neusiedlersee is based on Zweigelt. The DAC on Leiterberg, on the red side, is based on Blaufränkisch. And on the white side, it's the Burgundian varieties, Weißburgunder, so Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, Neuburger, as well as Grüner Veltliner. And in this region, the DAC is based on Blaufränkisch or Zweigelt, so we have both varieties in the red side. And the Rosalia has got the only one Rosé DAC. And the Rosé can be produced out of any red quality grape existing in Austria. And so it's the very first Rosé DSC in Austria, which is established in the law. Moving forward to the Mittelburgenland. Mittelburgenland is a quite huge area. It's as well called Blaufränkisch Land because more than 55% of the plantings in this area is Blaufränkisch. And actually we just have two regions. You can see here in the northeast the cities of Deutschkreuz, Neckenmarkt, Horizon and his Riding, which are really growing wine. And then here in the south east it's Nutzmannsburg, growing wine. Mainly, as said, red wine, Blaufränkisch. We've got Blaufränkisch Zweigelt, international varieties, Merlot, Cabernet. Why? The simple reason is we still have Pannonian climate, but the answer is mainly here. It's the soils. We talk about really, really heavy clay, heavy loam, black earth sites, and less soils. So they full of nutrients, and there is no problem for the grapes really becoming ripe. Harvest time normally beginning of October, mid of October. That's really nice. And the funny thing what I mentioned before is you can't see it on this picture, but actually here somehow here would be the Lake of Neusiedl. So the Lake of Neusiedl still has an influence on these vineyards, and in this area here, especially in the area of Neckenmarkt, we've got vineyards which are north facing. So it's a hill going up and down and going up again. The let's say the south or the southeast directed exposure sites are then turning to north faced sites. So these sites are 2 weeks later in harvesting time in the ripeness level. Sometimes they are harvested at the same time just to add a little bit of freshness in the wine. But due to the Lake of Neusiedl, the grapes are going to be ripe. And I think this is an interesting thing to have north-facing or northwest-facing sites which get really grape ripes. I just see a question from Brandon. Why was Rosalia offered a Rosé DSC to the other regions? Actually, we are, to be honest with you, we do have 5 DSC regions in Burgenland. And out of those 5, 4 are directed to red wine and Blaufränkisch. Leiterberg is white wine as well, and Neusiedler is Zweigelt, as I mentioned before. So Rosalia had to look for something different. And if you're down there in this region, you will see a lot of local food shops, and we call it Buschenschank, Heurigen, where you can go to. And here we talk about very fresh, easy drinkable wine. And in the former times, quite often the grapes in this area, due to the cold winds from the north and from the west, not always the grapes got right. But this is something dating back 25-30 years. And there was a kind of a tradition to produce rosé wines on a quite good quality level. Nowadays, of course, the ripeness level of grapes due to the climate change is not a problem anymore, but they kept the tradition in producing rosé. And if you go in this region, rosé is really a traditional wine style, and that's the reason why they are offering Rosé DSC on a really, really good quality level. And I'm not talking about residual sugar levels of 10 grams or 15 grams like that on a dry rosé, which is really nice, having much more color compared to Provence rosé, for example, but less color than a Navarra rosé. But the typical freshness and fruitiness of a Austrian red wine, I would say, and especially in this case, when it's done on Blaufränkisch and Zweigelt, it's always a mixture of a touch of strawberries and raspberries in this wine. But it's a tradition, and this they took forward to form a DSC on Rosalia. Good. Yeah, and the last region, in the very south of Burgenland, the region called Eisenberg. It used to be called Südburgenland. And if you have a more closer look on the map, you see that we have something up here. This is the city of Rosé, of Rechnitz. Here is the highest mountain in Burgenland. It's called Geschriebenstein. It goes up to almost 900 meters of sea height. So we have a lot of cool air coming down here. And this Rechnitz, city of Rechnitz, is almost dedicated to white wine and does have very, very good Welsh Riesling wines, even single vineyard Welsh Riesling wines. And the second hotspot is for sure here in this area. We talk about Deutschschützen and Eisenberg, where Blaufränkisch as well as Welsh Riesling on the white side is really, really dominating. Yeah, and then there's something down here, which is a really small vineyard area, but almost everybody knows about the wine. The wine is called Uhudler. I just typed it. I don't know if you've ever heard about it. This Uhudler is not a wine official in the law because it's not Vitis vinifera, so it's not European wines. It's based on American wines or hybrids of American wines. So there's a portion of Vitis labrusca in there. And these wines are not crafted on any rootstock. They have their own rootstock to the variety. So, and the variety, by the way, they are called Delaware, for example, Isabella, Cordula. So really nice and good sounding names in there. But the main area for sure is this area, quite well known for the Blaufränkisch, and the Eisenberg DSC is again based on Blaufränkisch, 100% Blaufränkisch. So one of the biggest differences in this area compared to all of the other areas in Burgenland lies here. It's the climate, and we call it Illyrian influence. What does it mean? It's let's say the bad or the quite humid weather fronts coming from the south, from Italy, from the Middle Sea. This brings the rain rate up to 1,000 millimeters or even higher. So the wines have a much fresher acidity structure due to the rain rate. They maybe not develop not that high sugar level in the grapes when they get ripe. And what comes on top of it, together with this high rain, we have here Laumesyles with high iron content. You can even see it. When you're down there, you will see a red shadow on the soil, which is rust, of course, because the water, the oxygen, and the iron, they do their chemical thing, and it's rust coming up again. And you will see this minerality, even this metallic approach or character in the wines of Eisenberg, which you're gonna taste hopefully later on as well. Yeah, beside the Welsh Riesling, yeah, Grüner Veltliner is there, and Zweigelt we do have as well in the Eisenberg region. It's a quite small region. We talk about 500 hectare compared to about 7.5 or even 8,000 hectare in the Neusiedler See area. But this is how Burgenland is from the north to the south. Okay, good. Any questions so far from your side? Okay, good. Let's see if somebody is typing. Then let's continue. Yeah. So we start our tasting with a sparkling wine. There are two main producers in Burgenland for sparkling wines, beside the wine growers on its own doing some sect. This is the German name or the Austrian name for sparkling wines. And the big two ones are brothers, by the way, and the name of the brothers is, the family name of the brothers is Szigeti. So you will see this style of wine with Szigeti on it. We call it, let's say the more fruit-oriented winery in terms of sparkling wine, the more straightforward and single variety-based style of wines. And his brother has got a company called Anobis, which is quite new. And he's I would say, the French guy. So he's really working in the way how Champagne, for example, is doing. But what we have served here is a Sigeti sect, which is actually a zero dosage, and this is the zero dosage is a kind of a trend right now Austria is looking for. There was a lot of drinking on brut level the last couple of years, and then we were going to extra brut, and now there's a big movement on zero dosage wines. It's always hard to get the same wines, let's say in the States, compared to the wines we get here, because sometimes the labels are different, but the content, I can tell you, the liquid inside, the wine inside, is the same. Yeah. So as you can see on the technical facts on this wine, we talk about a residual sugar level of 2 grams per liter, buffered with an acidity of 6.9 gram per liter. So this should be something really, really refreshing. And let's taste the wine. The color already gives you, for me, in my class, it's a quite good middle depth golden color in the glass. The nose reminds me on green apples. I get a touch of bruised apples, so kind of Chenin Blanc style in there. Yeah, peach, kind of herbal saffron character in there. Quite interesting nose. Yeah, and on the palate, for me this wine, firstly, is really refreshing because the acidity you can really feel on the tongue on the left and on the right side, but it's having the typical fruitiness style. It's again the green apple, it's the bruised apple, it's the pear style in there, underlined by a herbal expression. With, again, I've got the saffron, I even got oregano on this wine, and a moderate finish, I would say, which is really, really dry, and a touch of phenolics for me is on this, which really makes it interesting to drink. Patrick was writing, I know it wouldn't apply on the zero dosage, but is still using this wine as a dosage on other wines. Yes, they are doing. They're using Spätlese, Auslese wines. For example, because Spätlese, Auslese wines, they do not have the noble rot, so you will not get this typical marmalade flavor influence there and this sticky honeyness, but you more get the fruity style of wine, and they still use it for their extra dry and dry wines. And Sigeti, as I said, one of the biggest sect producers even in Austria. They do a lot of sparkling wines for wineries. So they bring the wine there and they do the fermentation in bottle, second fermentation in bottle there, and then deliver it back to the wineries. One of the best ones. But this style of wine, what you have in glass, is, as I said before, becoming more and more common in Austria. Would be interesting to know how it's in the US. Are you still on the brut, or is it going downwards as well, like in the Champagne? There was a nice discussion once ongoing that the dosage of a sparkling wine, of course there are always different opinions, but one guy was saying the dosage of the sparkling wine was mainly due to the unripe grapes in Champagne, so we needed to buffer the acidity with sugar. But as the ripeness level on the grapes is going up and up and up, so the acidity levels are not that high anymore, pH is going up, and then when the pH is going up, they are not forced to have that high dosage level anymore to have it balanced on the palate. So this is one of the saying. Which producer are they getting it from? You mean the Spätlese and Auslese, I guess. Mainly they do have own production, but they do get it from the producers around of Gols. So they are sitting in the village of Gols. You see it here. And Golz is that biggest wine growing community or village in Austria. They have more than 2,000 hectares, and this region is quite well known for Spätlese and Auslese. So they do have part of it on their own, and part of it they buy in on the quality production wine. Yeah. I think this is thanks a lot, Haley. I think this is a trend you can see worldwide, that we are going to less and less dosage. Maybe it's like a pendulum for me. So we're now going to zero dosage, and at the end of the day, it will be somewhere in the level of 5-6 grams at the end of the day when we come back. But for me, it's an interesting approach because it's more the base wine in the bottle compared to the base wine made a little bit more harmonic in terms of tasting experience. Good. So this is the sect I want to talk about. So let's move on to the whites. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to write in the chat. I call it whites the classics. So what do you think of whites in terms of Austria? Of course, everybody is thinking of Grüner Veltliner. As I told you before, Grüner Veltliner is still the majority grape variety in Burgenland, but it's far less than Blaufränkisch, for example. So Grüner Veltliner is about 1,700, 1,800 hectares, and Blaufränkisch is about 2,800 hectares in the Burgenland area. But still, I brought a Grüner Veltliner from Burgenland, from the winery Zanto. The winery Zanto is let's say, it's the selling arm or the marketing arm of the cooperative in the village called Andau. And they do have about 400 grape producers delivering their grapes. And Zanto or Andau is making the wine under the brand of Zanto. So this Grüner Veltliner is a classical Grüner Veltliner in terms of Austria. What does classical mean in terms of Austria? It's about stainless steel, stainless steel, and stainless steel. Yeah, so white wine, to keep it fresh and fruity, to have the acidity on a good level, and you see it's about 6 grams here. We are 100% stainless steel, a wine for everyday's drinking, for every food, almost light dishes, starters, salads, whatsoever. Yeah, I will pour it in my glass. So I just put all 3 of the wines I have in front of mine. So yeah, Peter was just saying dosage is guest driven. Of course, tastes are different and people prefer different things. And you're right, there is still a place for higher dosage. I was just referring to the movement or the development over time, as you can see on the sale numbers, how many extra dry wines are sold compared to brut or extra brut or zero dosage wines now 10 years before and 20 years before. So you can see a shift a little bit, but there are very, very good even dry, so trocken as we call it, dry sects existing. Good. So let's taste this Grüner Veltliner. Again, from the color, for me, I don't have that good light here, but anyhow, it's a medium depth color with a golden and green hints because of the youthness of this wine. In the nose, this is for me pure apple style. It's not the green apple as I used to have quite often in Weinviertel DSC in Lower Austria, for example, but it's more yellow apples for me. Yeah, so it's a more ripe apple. It does have a little touch of exotic flavor there as well, which is due to the ripeness and due to the sun in this area. Actually, in this area, we do have more than 2,000 hours of sun a year on average, which is quite warm. but it's just fruity. There is no oak influence. There is really just the fruit up front, and the touch of citrus is there for the freshness. On the palate, yeah. It's a quite fresh white wine with, again, the yellow apple flavor, very ripe apple flavor. Although it does only have 12% ABV in this wine, for me the impression on the palate is quite, developed, and a lot of extract for me is in this wine. From tasting, it's a round mouthfeel, it's quite softened, it's harmonized, it's balanced, yeah? But it does have the freshness from the acidity, which is the citric touch I get. And the finish of this wine for me is a moderate finish, quite refreshing and easy to drink, a straightforward wine, which is really very, very good if you have it chilled, of course. This is quite important on this wine, together with starters, together with light food, and everyday's drinking, uncomplicated wine, which is pure, nice, easygoing, nice to drink. But this is Grüner Veltliner from Burgenland region. Yeah, if you want to compare it to Grüner Veltliner from Lower Austria, of course it's a little bit hard because we do have much warmer climate, we do have different soils. This wine, by the way, is coming from pure gravel soils, so you have this freshness and the fruitiness in there. There's no minerality like you would look for in the Wachau or in Kamptal or Kremstal. It's just a nice glass of white wine, Grüner Veltliner, from the cooperative, produced in a very good amount of bottles and for a very, very good selling price, at least here in Austria. But even in the US, it might be on the for the Austrian wines on the lower scale of price range. If you now go and compare this wine to the next wine, it's called Aus den Dörfern, so from the villages, 2018, from the winery Rose Schuster or St. Margareten. Here we are in the region of Leiterberg. Rose Schuster, actually, it's the mother of Hannes Schuster, and Hannes Schuster is right now running the winery since a couple of years. This is something different. This is a typically, wine in the way produced, how it used to be the case back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Why? Because it's a field blend. So it's coming from different villages. It's coming from Zagersdorf, it's coming from Donauskirchen, for example, but it's coming from a field blend. So the field blend means there are different wines in the vineyards. So there's a Grüner Veltliner just beside a Riesling, just beside a Muscat, beside Weißburgunder or Pinot Blanc. Everything is mixed in the vineyard. It's harvested at once, at the same time. So some of the grapes are ripe, some of the grapes are overripe, some of the grapes are underripe, depending on the variety in the vineyard. But this is exactly what a field blend is all about. So we have a different and it should be a quite animating structure and animating feeling on the palate with this wine. And of course, every vintage is different, because in some vintages we have, let's say, frost end of April, then the early flowering varieties are not that dominant in the blend anymore. Or if you have a late year, then we get even more of the Riesling character in the wine. So every year is different depending on the vintage. Tasting this wine, for me, I can see the touch of a little bit more golden color. I don't know if this is just my light here. Yeah, it's the light. Really medium depth plus golden color in this wine. Much more on this, on the tears on the glass. So it looks to be more extract in this wine. Let's have a nose. Yeah, I think the very first thing which comes up into my nose is this wine has got some skin contact. So all the we call it always the new wave of wine styles. Yeah, the raw wines, the orange wines, natural wines, however you want to call it. If you keep white wines on the skins for some time, you get this typical raw wine flavor. And this is one of the first things I get here. It's a earthiness, a touch of mushroom, but it's apples, it's leaves in there. It's even some exotic flavor. I got, it's a nuttiness. So for me, this wine in the nose has got a much more more complexity compared to the wine before. The wine before, the Grüne Veltliner, was quite straightforward, nice to drink. This one is a little bit more complex and yeah, sophisticated. Let's taste. I think here the big difference on the palate, besides not being that upfront fruitiness, you have this earthiness, you have these mushrooms there. But what you get in difference to the very first wine, there's a touch of phenolic. Yeah, yeah, it's savory. It does have, for me, it reminds me a little bit to Jura, you know, the region in France. This is really, really excellent wine. You can compare it with almost every fruit. It has got structure, it has got depth, it has got length. It's much longer than the very first wine, and it's something really serious for me. Yeah, although it's a field plant, I should not say although, but you know, there's a time saying, okay, it's just single variety. No, it's a field plant done on a new wave or new modern way of vinification in this wine. And what I like especially is the very, very good integration of acidity, yeah, in this wine. And a touch of saltiness comes in the finish, which really makes it interesting to drink. So up to now, just now wine number 3, but it's one of my favorites in this flight. And you were mentioning it seems a little volcanic. Actually, I told you before, some of the grapes are coming from Donauskirchen area, and Donauskirchen area, a small village, yeah, does have a volcanic history there. Yeah, based on Donauskirchen is the only area in Burgenland which does have kind of a similar soil types compared to Wachau. Yeah. With a little bit Thermal region, which is a lot of volcanic soils there, and this mixture makes it so interesting on this wine. So for me, this is really good. Acidity, we did not get the number from the winery, and this is again a thing I like very much, because numbers are numbers, yeah, and you might be influenced or pre-biased, yeah, on the numbers, but tasting this wine, you just say acidity is really, really nice and really fine. On this wine, bone dry, nice alcohol. So this is how it should be. And we've got another extreme, wine number 3 in this flight. It's called Sankt, another serious wine from the same gorgeous place, 2010. Yeah, 2010 has been a quite good vintage in Austria. It was not the same like compared to Bordeaux, yeah, with 2009 or. This Sankt, you mean the Sankt Another series or the other one? Aus den Dörfern is coming from Leiterberg region, so Sankt Margareten is the neighbor city of Rust, if you know Rust, in where the Wine Academy is located in Austria. And the next one is coming from Leiterberg region as well. The winery Moritz is based in Groseflein. And Groseflein is just a city on the Groseflein is just a city on the footsteps of the Leitergebirge. Yeah, so Aus den Dörfern is coming from the Leiterberg region. St. Margareten belongs to the Leiterberg region. And maybe this is one of the, as I said before, it's just beside the city of Rust. And if you look in more detail on the Leiterberg region, you will see that up to now, the city of Rust is not part of the Leiterberg region due to historical issues, whatever. Yeah, but with the new law, which is currently to be signed by the Ministry of Agriculture, Rust will become part of Leiterberg DSC as well. So maybe with vintage 2019 or 20, you will see Leiterberg DSC wines, white and red, from the city of Rust as well. Okay, do we have 2018 or 2010 from the winery? Moritz Bottling. Constance, you know what you got? For me, I got the information about 2010. It's 18. Okay, good, because in my bottle it's 18 as well, so we have it really nailed down. So winery Moritz, Mr. Roland Wehlich is running. Mr. Roland Wehlich is running this winery in Groseflein. He does have his vineyards all around the place. So it's in the St. Georgen village, it's in Mittelburgenland, in Deutschkreuz villages, wherever. And he's really taking the best grapes from the best places for his wines. And the interesting thing here is the naming, beside the wine, which is very, very interesting, to be honest. The naming, Sankt, another serious wine from the same gorgeous place. What does it mean? Actually, this is 100% Grüner Veltliner in this wine. Yeah, and in Austria we do have normal wine according to the law, to the wine law, and we do have quality wine to the wine law. And if it's a quality wine, it has to go through testing. It has to go through analytical testing, so it's a chemical analysis, how much alcohol, how much acidity, sugar, and so on is in there. There are certain limits you have to comply with, which is okay. And there's a tasting, a sensual tasting, a really tasting by guys. They're sitting, 6 guys, tasting this wine and telling you if this wine is without any faults. That's the first thing. And the second thing is if it's tasting like what is written on the label. So if on the label you have Grüner Veltliner, then it should taste like Grüner Veltliner. And you just have to smell this wine, I think. Yeah, once you smell this wine, you immediately see we do have again a new wave style of wine, and Moritz is very, very famous for this one. And the judging panel was tasting this wine and said, this is not Grüner Veltliner like. Yeah, Grüner Veltliner should be like ABC, but this is not like Grüner Veltliner, and therefore you don't get the quality number for this wine, and therefore you're not allowed to call it quality wine, although it's a really good quality wine, but not in the terms or in the sense of a wine law. So what Roland Wehlich did, said, okay, then I make it Landwein, which is the same category as Vin de Pays in France, VDP. And I make it Landwein, and I just name it that the people were sitting in this judging panel, they don't know what they are judging on, and they're just stupid guys. And therefore he said it's a Sankt, another serious wine from the same gorgeous place, because the Grüner Veltliner grapes are coming from St. Georgen, which is a small village just beside Eisenstadt and Groseflein. So this is the story about the title of this wine, which is really showing up one of the biggest challenges we have right now in our wine law, that all the new style, the new wave of wines, they are not part of the quality wine law right now, except the orange wines. There's some way how you can get a quality number. But with this style of wine, you cannot get a quality number, although the wines are of very, very high quality. So let's see. For me, it's a quite deaf golden color. It looks even like gold barrels for me right now. In the nose, yeah, I like this. I like this nose. It's for me like fresh orange peel, for example. It's really scantic wine. It's again apples. It's bruised apples. It has got some autumn leaves, you know, when the leaves are falling down in autumn and then are on the floor a little bit wet. This kind of nose impression I've got here. Again, some mushrooms, but I got hints of herbal aromas. I got nuttiness in this wine. I even got minerality and some spiciness in the nose, but all of them being really balanced and quite interesting wine. Let's taste. Yeah, just think back on the wine we had before. Yeah, I think this wine is even more serious. Yeah, because we get a really explosion of different flavors in the wine, and of course the wine benefits from having it open for a couple of even not minutes, but maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours, because it needs fresh air. It's coming up. It might be quite reductive in the very beginning, but it's opening up. But on the palate, for me, it's the very same, even more exotic touch of flavor, quite ripe, even apricots I got in there. We have the apple, we have the leaves aroma again, we have the herbal aroma. So for me, this is one of the most complex wines we had up to now in this tasting. And the finish is quite smooth. You can feel a little bit of warming in the back. This is mainly due to the alcohol, but which fits really well. And the balance of acidity and residual sugar is quite nice. I don't think that this wine has got residual sugar, maybe 2 grams or things like this, but it's got a lot of very ripe grape aromas, so extract aromas on this wine, and a very long finish, which is really balanced and harmonized. So quality-wise, this is for sure a quality wine, but as said before, not according to the Austrian wine law. The difference, how you can see it on the bottle of Austrian wine, if it's a quality wine or not, it's quite simple. The quality wine does have we call it banderole, on the bottle. So it's the red, white, red flag, Austrian flag, with a number on it. This is the sign for being a quality wine. If this is not there, then it's not a quality wine, and it's called Landwein, or even wine from Austria. Yeah, I agree. It has tannins. Yeah, it has. I always call it phenolics, but this makes it really interesting. It does have a touch of bitterness in the back, in the finish, but this, for me at least, it's the impression of I want to have a second sip immediately because of this touch of little phenolic style of wine. And just keep it open for a while and taste it after 2 hours, after 4 hours. You will see it's really developing in the very nice direction. So I think out of this flight, the most interesting wine has been this Sankt Denara series wine from the same gorgeous place. The wine which is really surprising and very well done is wine number 2 we had before, Aus den Dörfern, and the classic typical Austrian style of wine, clean, fresh, fruitiness, has been the Grüne Veltliner from the winery Zanto in the north, in the Neusiedlersee region. Yeah, good. So this is white wine. Burgenland is known as being the red wine country in Austria. Austria in overall is about 66%, so 2/3 white wine and 1/3 red wine. In Burgenland area, we do have 55% red wine and 45% white wine. So we are really a red wine country. Elevage oak regime, yeah, on the Moritz wine. It's kept for. Hold on a second. Yeah, I know for sure it's done in 500 liter French barrels, but it's not new barrels. It's seasoned or used barrels in there. So it's just to support the wine in their development, and the period being in this barrels, in these French barrels, is about depending on the vintage between 12 and 24 months. But it's 500 liters barrels, so it does a quite good exchange of oxygen during the maturation period of the wine, and this really helps the wine to develop this really complex flavor style. Yeah. Okay, thank you. You're very welcome. Yeah. So Hope this answered your question. So it's a 500 liter oak barrels. Yeah, just to get it more round and more robust, the wine. So let's move on. I just empty my glasses and pour the new wines. That red grape variety in Burgenland, besides Zweigelt, is Blaufränkisch. And we do grow Blaufränkisch from north to south. And what we get now is different styles of Blaufränkisch. The first one coming from the Neusiedlersee area. The second one coming from the Eisenberg down in the south, where a lot of iron is part of it. The third one coming from the Leiterberg region, which is again Mr. Heinrich. You will see is a guy on the new wave. And then one from the Mittelburgenland area, which is mainly Blaufränkisch, what they are growing. So, let's see, let's concentrate. The first wine we've got on the Blaufränkisch side is Blaufränkisch Vintage 2018. And in terms of vintages, 2018 has been a tremendous vintage, maybe not in terms of quality, but in terms of quantity. Quality-wise, it's a very good vintage, but it's not the best vintage because it was hot throughout the year, or warm and hot throughout the year. It was dry, really, really low rain rate all the time. It was one of the earliest harvests we ever had. So we started quality wine production mid of August already, and mid of October the harvest was finished in 2018, especially in Burgenland area. And in terms of quantity, Austria on average has got 2.3, or let's put it the other way, 230 million liters of wine a year. 2018 has been 300 million liters of wine a year, so 20-25% more than it used to be, which is high quality and high quantity in a marketplace where oversupply is normal. So you can imagine what's ongoing right now in the marketplace. But this wine is coming from Judith Beck, a winery in Gols. Judith Beck is biodynamic, by the way, and Blaufränkisch is one of her major grape varieties she's producing. Blaufränkisch is always known for being higher acidic, being more tannic, more robust tannics, can transport sense of place, and this is what I would like to show with this flight from the north to the south. And on the other side, it's one of the varieties which really lasts for ages if done in a proper way. So let's try this wine from Judith. For me, it's in my glass, it's a deep, almost purple color in the glass. The rim is purple, quite short and purple in there. The nose, this is classical Blaufränkisch nose from the Neusiedlersee region. It's all about dark cherries, which is quite common to Blaufränkisch. From this side, it has got herbal aromas. It has got a touch of spice, but just a little bit. We hopefully see it in Mittelburgenland later on, much more evident on the wine. A little bit, a touch of reductive is in there for me, but quite promising from the nose. On top, I got a hint of olives. I don't know, black olives, like I normally do get in Syrah from the Rhône-Tal, but this is here as well. So let's taste. So it's a really fresh, nice glass of red wine. I think you can immediately feel the acidity on this wine. It's refreshing. It's nice. It's a lot of cherry flavor, dark cherry flavor. It has got a hint of spice as well in the back and the finish. Medium weight on the palate. It's bone dry for me, and a touch of, how to say, from the tannins point of view, a touch of very ripe tannins, but not being too fleshy and too bold in a sense. So you can feel the tannins. It's a little bit coating your mouth, but it's not like astringent or something like this, which can be as well in the case of Blaufränkisch. So why is this the case with Blaufränkisch? Because Judith has kept this wine for 10 months in old, bigger barrels, so 500 liters, 1000 liters, something like this, just to get the exchange with the oxygen and to smoothen the tannin structure of this wine. But the freshness of the acidity is here, and I think the acidity is giving as well the color to the wine, so the pH is lower compared to other red wines, and this is the reason why we have a lot of purple color segments in the wine. Normally, as said, Judith is biodynamic. She does have the wine quite long on the skins during maceration, and this wine is about 3 weeks on skins before it's going to be pressed. So the juice, the wine really can suck out the tannins and the color from the skins, and partially it's done with stems, so it's hand harvested, this wine, and the inclusion of stems is done according to the vintage. And as 2018 has been a really ripe vintage, a portion of stems has been included as well, because the tannins in the stems, they have been really ripe as well. And I think this you can feel on the tannin structure of this wine, of this Blaufränkisch. But anyhow, it's a nice wine. I would say you even can do it on a daily basis. You can have a nice glass of red wine here in front of you, going quite well with the traditional Austrian food. A lot of pork and beef would fit quite well to this wine. And of course, you can do it on its own as well. In comparison, the next wine we're going to show is the Blaufränkisch Bella Joschka 2017. 2017 has been a very, very good vintage. It started with a quite cold January, then it got warm in February, March timeframe. In April, it was a little bit rainy, a little bit cooler, which brought back the growing season to the normal schedule. Then it was a dry summer, a warm summer, sometimes even hot summer. But in September time, it started raining again every now and then. And so the grapes were really ripe, had a lot of water, and by end of October, the harvest was finished with very, very good grapes, especially for the red grapes, for the Blaufränkisch. Blaufränkisch is considered to be a late ripening variety, so you normally go there and harvest earliest beginning of October, normally mid of October, end of October. So it's the last, or one of the last varieties after Cabernet Sauvignon harvested in Austria. Blaufränkisch Bella Joschka. The name Bella Joschka comes from the two fathers of this winery. So Mr. Bella Wachter, you see here the winery is called Wachter Wiesler. So the fathers of the current owners running the winery called Bella Wachter, and the other one is called Joschka Wiesler. So this is the name of the guys giving this wine the name, and it's thought to be a Blaufränkisch for daily consumption, daily base, nice glass of red wine, very well with the local food there. You can see it as well on the ABV level. We talk about 12.5, so it's almost the same, roughly. Yeah, let's compare it with the wine before. Yeah, 12.51, 5.4, and here we have 12.51, 5.6. So it's not that much of a difference from the analytical things. But let's taste the wine. Yeah, and the winery is located in Deutschschützen. So 65% of the Blaufränkisch grapes are coming from Deutschschützen, which is a lot of clay in there. And 35% of the grapes for this wine are coming from Eisenberg, which is the neighboring city. And there's a lot of schist in there. And this is now the big difference to the gravel and sandy soils from the Blaufränkisch before. So let's look. Yeah, again, for me, it's maybe not that deep color as the wine before, but we still have this purple hints on the rim. Otherwise, I would say it's a ruby color in the wine. Yeah, moderate, medium color. In the nose, it's a little bit more sour cherry aroma. It's not the black cherry, the fully ripe cherry aromas. For me, it's a sour cherry. Then it's got much more minerality in this wine, much more spiciness in this wine, a touch of earthiness. Yeah, and herbal aromas according to thyme. Thyme is in there, and a touch of pepper as well, black pepper. Let's taste. I think you really can see the difference between the Neusiedler See Blaufränkisch and the Eisenberg Blaufränkisch. Much more, how to say, leaner. It's not a lean wine, but a leaner structure compared to the wine before. A lot of minerality in this wine, a sour cherry aroma, a freshness, acidity, although it's just 0.2 grams per liter more, is coming. Is influencing even more the taste of the wine. Is the freshness. It's a little, for me at least, a little bit easier drinking because I like the freshness. It's not an easy wine. Don't get it wrong. Yeah, it's a really serious wine, but it has got the typical flavor of a Blaufränkisch from Eisenberg with a lot of minerality, with a lot of. I always say it's like the wet stones in the vineyard when it just was raining and you go out and smell on the stones there. This is typically for this wine. Freshness, the tannin is a little bit more demanding than the tannin before in this wine. So this would be a typical Blaufränkisch tannin structure for a daily consumption Blaufränkisch wine. And the finish for me is much more elegant compared to the wine before, which is again typical for this region. Don't forget about, we have much higher rain rate, we have more mineral soils in there, and this gives the structure to the wine. Okay? The next wine is the Leiterberg. So it's just the region close to Neusiedler See, but just on the western shore of the Neusiedler See. For Mr. Heinrich. Heinrich is biodynamic as well. He is member of the Respect family. And he has changed his way of doing wines, his wine style, vinification methods quite dramatically to really natural, raw, partially orange wine style. Leiterberg DSC Blaufränkisch should be dry. The fruit should not be upfront per definition, and minerality should be in the nose, on the palate, and in the finish as well. So let's see. For me, this wine has a really dark color for 2017, more still on the purple side. In the nose, I got a lot of earthiness on the forefront. I got truffles in there. I got these autumn leaves again, a cherry, a spice note. Yeah, this is quite well in line with the vineyards this wine is coming from, because the Blaufränkisch grapes for this wine are selected from different sites, from different villages in the Leiterberg region, which is fine for the Leiterberg DSC. Let's taste. Yeah, so here the acidity is king. Yeah, it's really, really refreshing, quite reductive style of wine. A lot of these cherry aromas, of this earthiness. In the finish, you really have a spice there. It's a really kind of animating style of wine. You get this reductiveness in this wine, but it makes it really interesting. Yeah. In my impression, you really can feel this spontaneous fermentation on this wine. Again, 3 weeks of maceration, and I know this wine was just brought to the market end of last year. So this wine has got for sure at least 2 years in oak barrels. He's using normally 500-liter oak barrels, seasoned barrels, so not new barrels, but just to really let the wine do what he wants to do. It's done without filtration, it's done without fining anything on this wine. So it's really as the grapes have been developing over the time and then bottled end of last year. So it has kept 2 years in the winery for really developing the full flavor. And for me, this is a Leiterberg DSC Blaufränkisch, more the sophisticated side of the game. It's not the more simple Leiterberg DSC, which is just fruit oriented, but we have a more complex aromas, a more complex structure, and especially the acidity gives this really living imagination to this wine, and for me it makes it really interesting to drink. So for me, this wine together with the Moritz wine we had before on the white side, these are really, really interesting wines. And this shows somehow the way some of our wineries are going in changing the vinification, for example. And then we got one example, which is, how to say, typically for Mittelburgenland. Yeah. So the winery Kirnbauer has got one famous wine, it's called Phantom. But this wine is called Blaufränkisch 7301, so 7300. 7300, this is actually the numbering scheme for the villages in Austria according to the postal office. So if you want to send a letter to Deutschkreuz, you have to put the number 7301 in front, and then they know where the letter should end up. It used to be Mittelburgenland DRC. It used to be a Vitikult wine. Maybe you know the Vitikult wineries, which are now just 3 wineries again. And this is again a classic Blaufränkisch for daily consumption. The numbers, the figures are almost the same, but typically for Mittelburgenland, you see already the alcohol level, ABV, 13.5. We have a lot of loam soils there, or clay soils there, with heavy soils. They normally tend to have deep structure, dark color, a lot of dark cherries, even sometimes cooked flavors, jamminess in the wines. This would be typical for the Mittelburgenland region, but all on a quite high quality level. And this wine, if you smell immediately oak in there. Beside the oak, you have dark fruit flavors. You have earthiness in there even more. Let's taste. Yeah, you can feel the oak. It's more full-bodied. It's a dark cherry. It's a blackberry aroma. It's a raspberry aroma in there, which is again typical for the Mittelburgenland Blaufränkisch, this blackberry aromas. In the finish, it's quite harmonized, balanced. The tannins on this wine, they are really meaty. They are sappy. They are savory. They are round and full. So it's about a really full glass of red wine. Let's say for daily consumption, but with more depth, with more intensive flavors, with more intensive aromas. Charlie was writing, I feel like the Judith Beck showed more obvious native yeast, spontaneous fermentation, beautifully focused, understated, and the real lens of minerality. I told you, Judith Beck is biodynamic as well. It's actually all of the wines we had before, except the Blaufränkisch 7300, is spontaneous fermented. So there is no yeast added, cultivated yeast added on this one. For me, the first 3 wines show exactly the sense of place in the terms of interesting wine, interesting in a positive sense, of course, with different flavor and different way of vinification. Yeah, this last wine we have in the glass 7300, 7301, is more of the former style of Blaufränkisch wine, the bold style of Blaufränkisch wine, which is fine as well. So there are a lot of people really looking after this style of wine, and it's a very well-made wine with more fully flavor of Blaufränkisch variety coming from the Mittelburgenland. Yeah, Judith Beck, Mr. Heinrich, as well as Wachter Wiesler, partially, they are more considered to be the new trend of winemakers, right? We would need to taste the Judith Beck and the Heinrich, let's say in 1 hour or 2 hours from now, and then you will even see more of this native yeast character in there, yeah. And they are for sure, on the, as you're saying, current understanding of quality wine, they are understated. So for me personally, these are really wines for the future. You can keep it, you can hold it, and you don't have to drink it immediately. They have the capacity, yeah, and they can stay for a longer time. Good. Right, so this has been the Blaufränkisch story from north to south. I think it was quite good visible to see the differences between the Neusiedler See, the Eisenberg, the Leiterberg, and now the Mittelburgenland, which is one of the most heaviest, one of the most dense and full-bodied Blaufränkisch you can get from Austria. Yeah, it's not only Blaufränkisch in Burgenland, so it's about other varieties as well, and I was looking for other varieties in the States existing, and one variety to be mentioned here is of course Zweigelt. As I told you before, Zweigelt indigenous Austrian grape variety. It was crossed from Mr. Zweigelt back in 1922 out of Blaufränkisch and St. Laurent. It was done as a more or less mass market wine, where the yields were going up to 25,000 kilograms per hectare. So the Austrian quality wine law tells you a maximum of 10,000 kilograms per hectare is applicable to the quality wine. And now they found out once you treat the wines correct in the vineyard, then with Zweigelt you really can produce quality wine. So the first wine I want to show you is, I would say, it's a banker. If you want to get a Zweigelt, a typical Zweigelt from Austria, from a very, very good winery, you have to go for Zweigelt Ummertum in Frauenkirchen, which is again the region of Neusiedler See. Zweigelt compared to Blaufränkisch is normally lower acidity, lower level of tannins, but more rounded, ripe and soft tannins, and on the other side a lot of fruitiness. So let's see what this Zweigelt is going to show us. Yeah, the color for me, it's a deep purple color in the glass, especially the rim shows the purple hints there. In the nose, it's about red cherries compared to the black cherries before in the Blaufränkisch. It's red cherries. It's a touch of oak I can see, but not new oak, maybe used oak in this wine. French oak. It has got earthiness and quite refreshing raspberries aroma for me in the nose, and a hint of malolactic fermentation in this wine due to the we call it yogurt impression. Yeah, on the palate, it's a more softer wine from the style point of view. It's a fruity. We got even more this cherry fruit aroma on the palate, and beside the cherry fruit, acidity is lower. It's just about fine with this wine to keep it fresh. in a very well integrated way and balanced way. The tannins, you can feel the tannins, but they are not as strong as with the Blaufränkisch before. They are more round, they're more soft on this wine, but they're very good integrated. This wine does have a medium body, which is quite dense and quite good balanced, shows a lot of typicity for Zweigelt. And the finish is charming, nice, rounded, really good to drink. So if you want to see high quality Zweigelt from Austria, this is one example of a high quality Zweigelt in Austria from the winery Umatum. Thought to be as well for daily consumption, but it can go with more heavier food, with a meat food as well, and on the glass on its own. When you look for a red wine with a lot of fruit flavor and more rounded appeal in your mouthfeel. I would say this is a reference style for Zweigelt on a high quality level from Austria. On the other side, there is another variety, indigenous Austrian grape variety, St. Laurent. St. Laurent, the name comes from the so-called Laurenzi Day on the 10th of August, because on this day, the variety, the grape, the skins of the grape changed color normally. And this is the reason why the variety is called St. Laurent. It's from the winery Rose Schuster. We know it already from the white wine flight. It's again a mixture out of vineyards in different locations, in different cities, from Zagersdorf, from Donauskirchen, and from Oslip is coming. Again, spontaneous fermentation on this wine. I think we will smell it immediately. Yeah, it's spontaneous fermentation on this wine. Has been kept in a big oak barrel, so 1,500, 2,000 liter for about 10 months. Let's see how this wine shows. Yeah, again, it's a medium plus color on the ruby style with hints of purple in the rim. In the nose, it's this indigenous yeast spontaneous fermentation character. I don't know how it's in your wine, but I have a touch, really just a touch, which makes it really interesting, of bread in this wine, Brettanomyces. But this is really on a good scale. I like it quite often. It's about meatiness. It's about a lot of dark berries in there, from a touch of cassis I even have in there. So quite interesting. Let's taste. Yeah, on the palate as well, the spontaneous indigenous yeast fermentation, you can get it. You have earthiness there. You got the you got the berries flavor. You got as well some dark cherries flavor in there. You have this quite interesting, and here on the palate, it's not that that intensive as on the nose. A touch of bread, but it really makes it interesting wine. It makes it more complex. It adds on the complexity of this wine. And what I like most is the finish on this wine, because it's really charming, nice, rounded, and interesting. Yeah. Talking about interesting things on St. Laurent, just have a look on this one here. We talk about ABV 12.5. So, as said before, St. Laurent is considered to be the future variety in terms of climate change. It's going to be warmer and warmer, but with St. Laurent, you never will go higher than 13 or maybe 13.5 ABV, depending on the sugar you are allowed to add under different circumstances. But you see, on this wine, a wine does not need 13.5, 14.5 percentages of alcohol to be really pleasant, to be drinkable, to be nice and rounded, and still having a medium even sometimes a full body feeling. Yeah, this alcohol level is absolutely fine with this wine for a nice glass of St. Laurent in front of you. And it's, if you compare it to some St. Laurent from the Thermen region, for example, which are done in a traditional way, then the St. Laurent from the Thermen region quite often shows chaminess, really, yeah, marmalade kind of flavors in the fruit. This is not the case here. This is a clean, nice fruit structure on this St. Laurent. And another extreme, which is quite famous in Burgenland area as well, is a cuvée. So it's a blend from the wine called Das Phantom I was referring to already when we had the Blaufränkisch from Kirnbauer. So this Phantom is a blend out of Blaufränkisch, Merlot, Cabernet and Syrah. Blaufränkisch about 40 to 45%, Merlot about 30%, Cabernet 20% roughly, and the rest is Syrah in there. This wine is something, how to say, in a quite done in a way. It's a kind of international format, I would say. It has been kept 16 months in French oak barrels, 225 liters, so in the small ones, and it has been grown on clay and quite loamy sandy soils. So really a big thing in the glass. Let's see. Yeah, dark dense color, ruby. For me, it's already kind of ruby color in the dark sense. In the nose, you see the combination, or you can feel the combination of blackberries aromas. I've got black tea leaves. I've got raspberries. I've got black currant and a touch of spice, a pepperiness, which maybe comes from the Blaufränkisch and the Syrah as well. On top of it, there is the oak, hints of vanilla in there. So it's a quite fruit-driven and full-bodied wine from the nose point of view. Let's taste. Yeah. On the palate, for me, the picture continues. So it's a full-bodied wine with a little bit warming alcohol in the finish, quite high from the impression point of view, but it has got the typical blackberry spiciness, especially in the finish of the wine. But the black currant aromas from the Cabernet are obvious, although it's just 20% out of it. It has got the warming feeling from the Merlot in the end. It has got the acidity from the Blaufränkisch and the Cabernet. So this one is for me a really good combination of a classical blend of four varieties in a more full-bodied style of wine, with demanding a really big food, big meat, maybe a steak or something like this, playing with this roasted aromas on the palate, as it's this vanilla component on the palate of this wine is really showing quite well. So we have now 3 different wines at Zweigelt, which is a more, let's say, easygoing, although it was not an easy wine, by far not. Yeah, fruit-oriented, cherry fruity, nice glass of wine with a moderate acidity. Going to the St. Laurent, which is having a little bit more refreshing acidity structure compared to the Zweigelt, a little bit more of complexity and the aroma point of view, going down to the blend, which is a really full-blown, full-bodied, nice glass of red wine, more comparable with the international style of red wine existing from around the world, I would say. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and last but not least, we are in Burgenland, and one of the major things in Burgenland is, of course, sweet wine. So I just rinse my glasses, because putting sweet wine in the red wine glass is not the best thing. So, talking about sweet wine in Burgenland, we talk about different categories according to the wine law. The lowest sweetness level on the wine law is called Spätlese, then followed up by Auslese. Both of these categories do not involve any botrytis, so no noble rot into these grapes. So it's about fruitiness again. It's about residual sugar levels, let's say up to 100 grams per liter, roughly, and not more. The next category is called Beerenauslese. There we have some botrytis and noble rot already included. In the same category, but without botrytis, we've got the ice wine, where the grapes have to be frozen when they are pressed, or Schilf wine or straw wine. So the grapes are put on straw mats, and after 3 months of time, the concentration is going much higher. And then we have Trockenbeerenauslese as the highest ranking. We talk about 100% of botrytis on the grapes, on the wines. The same category is existing under the name of Ausbruch. So this is a change of the law, that the naming of Ausbruch, which is a Trockenbeerenauslese, is just allowed to be used in the city of Rust. So if you do a Trockenbeerenauslese in Rust, then you call it Ausbruch. Otherwise, outside of Rust, it's called Trockenbeerenauslese, due to the history of Ausbruch in Rust. And what we've got now is a Beerenauslese, so some kind of botrytis, and the Trockenbeerenauslese, a Ruster Ausbruch, with a lot of botrytis in there. And we're gonna taste this. Yeah, Constance, you're right, it's called liquid gold. And by the way, we are doing our internal competition on liquid gold in autumn time here in Austria. We opened this just 2 weeks ago, and wineries can enter their wines, and within 2 weeks we got about 120 wines entered into this competition, and it's still open for about 4 weeks to enter wines. So you see the importance of sweet wine in our region, especially in the Leiterberg and of course in the Neusiedlersee region. So the sweet dessert. Cuvée Beerenauslese 2017 from Mr. Kracher. Kracher is for sure the most well-known sweet wine producer from Austria. He has been sweet winemaker of the year in London for a couple of times already. And this is his traditional Beerenauslese. It's a blend from 60% Welsh Riesling and 40% of Chardonnay in this wine. 85% of this wine is done in stainless steel, and 15% of this wine is done in small French barrique barrels, so 225 liters for 12 months. The name Liquid Gold, if you just look on the color, you'll see it's a pure golden color. It turns into amber when the wine develops over the time. The tears on the glass are really high, and they're running quite slow down from the glass. Let's nose this wine. Yeah, the first impression you always got is honey, of course. This is due to the noble rot. The British people would say it's marmalade, so it's orange marmalade in there. But beside this honey flavor, I have a lot of herbal aromas. I think of Provence, so on this garlic notes in the wine. We got quite exotic flavor. We got dried pineapples, for example, in there. We got a touch of vanilla from the French oak treatment. We got orange peel. Hints of citrus is there. Looks for freshness. Let's see. Yeah, quite complex. Let's taste. Yeah. So I think this is a very good example for Austrian sweet wine, because you feel it's a sweet wine. So we've got 133 grams of residual sugar in this wine. But due to the acidity of 6.3 grams per liter, and just remember the white wines we had before, they were above the same level, yeah, or sometimes even lower in some cases. It's this refreshing appeal on the palate. You get a lot of this exotic flavor, you get this honey flavor there, you get the herbal aromas. It's really fleshy and nice, but it's not gluey. It's really refreshing, sweet wine, which, by the way, fits really well. And I tried it once, and I will do it forever, yeah, together with a steak. So try a big portion of meat, a steak, freshly grilled, together with a Bärenauslese, for example. It's a perfect fit, really, honestly. I experienced this in Sauternes, and since then I never changed my habit on steak and sweet wine Bärenauslese. Yeah? But this is, as I said, refreshing due to the acidity, and this is how sweet wine should be. Yeah, of course, the big advantage on this sweet wine is once you open the bottle and for whatever reason you're not able to drink it at once, you can keep it weeks in your fridge, no problem. It will stay as it is with the same appeal after 1 week, after 2 weeks. So it's really nice wine. And as I said, the importance is always having the balance, having the harmony in this wine. And this is purely given in this sweet wine from the winery Kracher. On the other hand, let's move. As I said, the Kracher is in Neusiedlersee region. Let's move to the western shore of the Neusiedlersee. It's the Ruster Ausbruch von Heidi Schröck. Heidi Schröck is a quite famous lady running the winery since years, ages, decades already. And she is the head of the Circle Ruster Ausbruch, which is a special brand, I would say. Ruster Ausbruch refers back to, it has been in 1681, so 1681, on the 3rd of December, the city of Rust, they just bought the right to be a city. And for this right to become a city, they paid 60,000 of these gold coins at that time and 28,000 liters of Ruster Ausbruch. And Ausbruch means break out in English. So they were breaking out of the normal village system. They were becoming a city. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why it's called Ausbruch, because they were together with the Imperial Leopold I from the Hungarian Austrian monarchy times. Yeah, they were moving out of the system. And that's the reason why it's called Ausbruch. You can see the residual sugar is 224 grams per liter. And still the ABV is 11% as the wine before. So you just can count what would be the ripeness level of this wine. So it would bring us to a potential alcohol level at harvest on 25% ABV. And interestingly, acidity still 6.5 grams per liter. This is due to the reason that this wine is a blend from Welsch Riesling and Furmint. Yeah? Furmint, as said before, an old Austrian and Hungarian, even more Hungarian variety with a lot of acidity together with the Welsch Riesling, and makes the wine fresh. So let's taste. Okay, in my glass I've got touches. I've got a golden, a deep golden color with hints of red influence, and I think this is the reason why this wine is called On the Wings of Dawn. In der Morgenröte in German. It refers to the color of the sky in the morning when the sun is rising, and the color of the sky when the sun is going down in the evening again. In the nose, yeah, you get even more of this honey notes. That's quite clear, because it's really 100% of botrytis. So the grapes or the berries, when they are harvested, they look like raisins. They're really shriveled down, and they're raisins, and they have this nice gray shadow due to the noble rot on it. If the shadow would be black, then it would be a bad botrytis. If it's gray, it's a good botrytis. A lot of exotic flavor in there. Dried fruits aromas, herbal aromas, minty aromas, chamomile, apricots, minerality I got as well in this wine. Really, really nice taste. Yeah, I think it's sweeter than the wine before, for sure, but still the acidity is really, really refreshing. You get all of these quite exotic flavors there, the dried fruit aromas, the of course the honey aromas in there, but when you taste it in the finish, yeah, the finish is really spicy, which makes it interesting, this wine. The spiciness together with the acidity on the side of the tongue with the exotic fruit flavor, it's a play, you know, it's going to be balanced in this way and in this way. It's playing all the way down. And even if I just put down the wine a couple of seconds before, I still have it in my mouth. I still have it in my feeling. And this shows off a very, very good quality level on this wine. And of course, compared to international sweet wine like Sauternes or maybe Tokaj partially, yeah, but Sauternes especially, this wine compared is much cheaper than the Sauternes. The wine will hold on for decades, so you can keep it in your cellar for 50 years or even more if you want. It will not be damaged or anything like this. And currently drinking, for example, vintage 1969, 1975, this is something really, really interesting. And the funny thing here is the sugar or the impression of sugar on your palate is not that huge or not that intensive anymore than it's now when the wine is young. So the sugar integrates, although the level stays the same, the grams per liter. But it's really, really amazing and interesting appeal of a sweet wine which doesn't taste sweet, but you know it's sweet. And that's really, really interesting. Good. Yeah. So I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. This has been actually the wines I wanted to show to you. Of course, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And I would say thank you for your patience. It was quite a long day for me today, at least, but maybe hopefully a good starting for you. And yeah, feel free to ask or anything you would like to know.
You can either raise your hands, or if there's no questions, then I guess we can wrap it up and say thank you so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed the wines.
Yeah, Constance, hold on a second. Charlie wants to say something.
Okay.
Charlie, you got the mic? Okay, because I just saw that he wants to speak. Okay, then I misread it.
All right. Well then, thank you everybody. And if you have any other questions, you could always let us know, and then we'll pass them along. So great.
Okay. Good. Yeah, then thanks to all of you, and have a nice day. I think I'm gonna empty those bottles right now. Let's see how I look tomorrow morning. But I hope you enjoyed it. And as said, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to ask either Constance or me directly. And I hope to come over to the US sooner than later and really give a face-to-face education here. Thanks a lot for being with me today.
Thanks, Tom.